Peace. All right. This video probably won't be too long. It can be very long, but it is intensely personal. It's in regards to how I'm able to provide and make a life for myself with the autoimmune condition of vitiligo. Vitiligo is a autoimmune condition that affects the melanocytes in the dermal layer of the skin, if I can recall. It's been so long since I've been to a dermatologist, and I've lived with it all of my life. It has affected me in a lot of different areas, consciously and subconsciously. But since I talk about how I make my living every day on this YouTube station, along with several other subjects, it's something that I never have really spoke on, and I hope I won't regret that I'm speaking on it now for the sake of others that live with vitiligo and go through some things due to that condition. It is in the deepest respect and honor that I share my experience with it. So when I was a child, small boy, still in the crib, I fell down and it caused depigmentation in my face. It's only in the visible area that you see. I know some people suffer it, or it affects multiple parts of their body, and so forth and so forth. But there ain't nothing wrong with you. It's just skin. But being socially accepted with this condition is either hit or miss. Some people move on and it doesn't really affect them that much. And other people, it's debilitating, to say the least. So when I was a little boy, I remember going to the dermatologist. I had a Jewish dermatologist who was a survivor of the concentration camps. I mean, I was such a little boy that, I remember seeing the numbers on his arm. I remember him showing me that. But more importantly, this man taught me about the miracle of melanin and the properties of melanin. So I want to bless his memory, Dr. Bernstein. I want to bless his memory. Taught me about a universal love and a universal appreciation for all people, regardless of whom or what station in life you might be in. So as a young boy, I remember people would say, "Oh, you bleached your skin? Did you pour bleach on yourself?" And all sorts of things. But how was a young person to process those things? So growing up as a teenager or whatever, how does it affect socialization? I remember when I was coming of age, being picked on and mocked. Caused, a degree of social anxiety. and not really fitting in, but that's okay. You know, I've like I say be a friend, make a friend, and I have plenty of people who I can genuinely count as true friends. And specifically, dealing with the opposite sex wasn't necessarily the easiest. But what I learned, I was looking at somebody's post on one of those social media outlets, and they were talking about pretty and pretty women, and how pretty is not enough. I take beautiful over pretty any day. When I say one thing about vitiligo, I was always around some beautiful women that taught me the value of myself. Some of those pretty women might say some disparaging things, downright mean. But I'm recalling a saying what they say, God don't like ugly and he ain't too fond of pretty neither. So one way that people deal with vitiligo is that they use makeup. I went through that stage, but I kind of felt like I was hiding something, hiding who I am, how I was made and how I was formed. And I was able to deal with that through a religious experience. As a young African American man, I began to question the authenticity of the Christian experience. And the things in the Bible, Levitical law, Deuteronomic law, or whatever, it would classify vitiligo as leprosy. Stories about Moses, he'd take his hand into his breast and it would come out, it would be white. He got angry with his sister, Miriam, and she turned white. There's a military general named Gehazi in the Bible, and all of those things. But coupled with socialization, and then when you put the deity on top of that, very difficult for a person to accept. But I remember I asked my father and my uncle, I was maybe in my 20s, and I asked them something about being a man. And they was like, oh, go to the mirror. Look at yourself and become friends with that person in the mirror. You know, it's ironic that Michael Jackson sang a song about the man in the mirror. I think it was, probably a little bit autobiographical about him and what he went through after he, was burned in the soft drink commercial in the 80s. And then we all know the whole notion of black or white. It was a double entendre for him. And, I went and I looked in that mirror and I began to love myself. But the true conversion came when I would go to the masjid and I was learning to pray, making salat. And I was wearing this makeup. And when I would go to the mosque, it would leave the makeup on the floor, on the carpet in the mosque. And I didn't want to do that. I just did not want to do that. And from those prayers, I totally stopped using the makeup, the cover tone, to conceal that which was obvious. So yes, in my opinion, I suffered some things in terms of professional development due to the vitiligo. So I would always do jobs that other people could not do or did not want to do. But that was the biggest thing. The biggest thing was going to that masjid and making prayer and not wanting to leave that cover tone on that floor. I snapped out of it. I was able to accept myself for who I am and love myself and whoever loved me. But yes, for some people, it affects them greatly. And a lot of people that don't have a relative, don't suffer from it themselves, it may be difficult for them to understand exactly where I'm driving at. It's also, difficult for some people with vitiligo to accept that others have difficulty finding work, finding partners, share their lives with, and things like that. But once you come to terms with it yourself, you'll be okay. You'll be all right. But you got to go to that mirror and love that person in the mirror and value that person in the mirror. Value the skills and the things that you are able to do in order to make yourself a positive and productive member of society. Again, it's a very intimate and very personal subject with me. But it's like the elephant in the room. It's better to talk about it than not to talk about it. Many times, as a man, and being a pretty big man, I worry about frightening people and people not being able to accept it You know, a lot of times children, young adults, teenagers, and so forth and so forth. But it leads me to another point about American culture. You know, I'll just speak on it. American culture is a bully culture. A culture where there's like no holds barred. But when I travel in other places in the world, it's not the same. It's just not the same. Africa never heard anything about color or vitiligo. Africa is a place where there ain't nothing new under the sun. You're not the first person with vitiligo or albinism or alopecia or any of these type things. And that was quite refreshing to me, that you could go on and get on about your life over there. So that's why I love it. But anyhow, that American bully culture, we living through it, and you know, it's my prayer that American people be safe wherever they are on the planet. But as long as you take that bully culture with you, you're going to find out that every dog have his day and every shut eye ain't sleep. So I just had to get that one off my chest today. Peace and be blessed.